Hey guys, it's me, Faith, and as you see, a lot has changed in my life. I'll introduce you to my cute baby. This is Zeal, Kingsley Morales. Can you say hi? Can you say hi? He was born October 6th, and he weighed 6 pounds. No. Yeah, 6 pounds and 15 ounces, and he was 18 inches long. October 6th, right, buddy? Yeah. So, it's been a while since I recorded, and I'm not going to promise any videos because every time I do, I never stick with it. It's hard to record, it's hard to do all that, so I just kind of do it when I feel like it. And when I was pregnant, it was kind of hard for me to do like bump dates, so I just kind of failed at that. But I did want to like share my birth story. This is something that I want to remember forever, and I know that the further away it gets, the more details I forget. And so just for me and for us and for this little guy, in case he ever wants to know, they probably won't want to know, but it's so that we can have it, and I would like to share it with you guys too. So, alright, let's tell the story, and hopefully he will be good and not be whiny. Maybe I'll keep him until he's fussy. Okay, so let's see, and right now he is 5 weeks old and 2 days. He's 5 weeks and a couple days. So, alright, so I went into labor when I was 38. He's smiling. Oh, what are you smiling at? Fernando's behind the camera. Do you see Daddy? Do you see Daddy? See you. Can you smile? He's been smiling. He started smiling at 4 weeks. But, I mean, it's pretty rare, and he only does it at Fernando. He loves his daddy, huh? Do you love your daddy? Yeah. Do you love your daddy? The cutest double chin. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to tell my birth story now. I went into labor when I was 38 weeks and 2 days. Something that I had prayed for is I wanted to go into labor early. There's a lot of things that I prayed for my labor and delivery, and I was really shooting for the stars with my prayers, and I got most of them. I was praying for no pain, and that didn't happen, but it's okay. I think it could have been a lot worse. And so something that I was praying for was for an all-natural delivery. I didn't want any, what do you call it, interruptions? I don't know. I didn't want help in laboring with medicine, and I didn't want an epidural. I didn't want any of those things. I didn't want to have to get them. I knew that they were available, but my goal was to not have those things. And so I was really praying for no complications, because I know some women can't have babies naturally, and they have to, you know, have the help of medicine or the help of a C-section or whatever it was. So that's something that I was really praying that I wouldn't have to have, and God answered my prayer. So it was, let's see, Wednesday night, early Thursday morning, October 6th, at 2:30 in the morning. I had gone to bed at like, I don't know, 11 or 12. Well, at 2:30 in the morning, I woke up with like cramps. It was like period-like cramps, and basically it felt like I was starting my period. And let me just give do you want to take him? He's like going crazy. You don't want to sit here. Okay, before I get into like how my labor started, I'm just gonna preface that I'm gonna kind of go into detail. I'm not gonna be gross about it, but I'm gonna share my birth story. So if you don't want to hear it, then get off this video because I'm gonna share it. Okay, so I went to bed Wednesday night, October 5th, around 11 or 12, something like that. And I woke, and I had kind of been crampy, but I was like, well, it's probably just making changes. So I went to bed that night, and I woke up around 2:30 feeling like I was starting my period. That was what it felt like. So I felt like a gush, and just a small one, and I had like intense period like cramps, which is what woke me up. So I get out of bed and I go to the bathroom, and my pajama pants are like soaked down there. It was pretty wet. So I kind of knew what was happening, and I kind of had some bloody show. So I'm like, okay, this is it. This has to be it. Let me reverse a little bit. So I was diagnosed with not diagnosed. They looked at one of the ultrasounds. They found that my umbilical cord only had 2 vessels. It's supposed to have 3. So because of that, they had to do this extra testing, which kind of made me in the beginning afraid that everything that I was praying for and hoping for was kind of going out the window, because they told me if you don't go into labor by your due date, you're going to be induced. That was something that I really didn't want to happen. I just felt like, that was just my desires, that wouldn't have to happen. And so I was really praying against that. I was praying that's why I wanted to go into labor early, so that there would be no intervention, is the word. So that I wouldn't have to intervene with anything to speed me up or whatever, that my body would just do it naturally is what I wanted. So when you have a 2-vessel umbilical cord, they once I got to like 36 weeks, they had me come in. They wanted me to come in twice a week to monitor the baby's heartbeat and basically to see if everything was fine, and check my amniotic fluid to make sure that it was fine. It was just an extra precaution to make sure that the baby, all the baby's organs were developing fine and all of that. So I ended up going in like once a week, and the last time I went, it was a Tuesday, the Tuesday before I went into labor, so a couple days before I went into labor, and they told me my amniotic fluid was pretty low. They measure it by centimeters. They like split like basically your stomach into four sections, and they, with the ultrasound thing, they look at and see, like, find pockets of fluid, and they measure it. And so I think it's supposed to be anywhere from I want to say 8 centimeters to 15 centimeters of fluid in your stomach, and that's considered normal. And mine was at like 6.5 or something. So I was below normal. If it got to 5, they would just send me and induce me right there. So I was at 6.5. So I was praying that that I would go into labor, and I was planning on going in that Thursday, the day I went into labor, to get checked again, and if I was 5 or below, they were going to induce me. So I went into labor that day, thank God, which was a huge answer to prayer for me. So it's 2:30 in the morning. I see that I'm wet, and I'm cramping, so I'm having contractions, and my water broke, and it was leaking. It wasn't like a huge gush, but my pants were visibly wet. So I go and I wake up Fernando, and I'm like, hey, I go beside his bed, and I like scared him because he's like all jumpy when he wakes up in the middle of the night, or every time he wakes up. So I was like, hey, Fernando, I think my water broke. So immediately he like jumps up, and he's like, what? So I show him, and he's like, yeah. So he's like, call Mary Beth. So Mary Beth is my doula. She's amazing. And so I call her, and she doesn't answer. So I text her, I'm like, hey, I think my water broke. So she calls me back a few minutes later, and I tell her what is going on, and she confirms, yeah, it most likely is that your water broke. So she said, pack your bags or get all your stuff and give me like 30 minutes or whatever, and then we'll head out. So we get ready. I hadn't even finished packing my bags. I mean, I was mostly packed. The baby's bag was packed. Fernanda's bag was packed. Mine was like half packed. So I'm like walking in circles. I just could not think straight. I was just in shock that it was happening. You like wait so long for this one moment to happen, and then all of a sudden it's here, and you never know when it's going to happen. That is the crazy thing. So you can never fully be prepared. Anyway, so that was my fault for procrastinating, but I hurried up and pack all my stuff, and we were like excited. We were laughing and just excited that this moment was here and that we were going to meet our son. So so I finished packing my bags. We get everything. We put it in the car and we drive by. Our Mary Beth, our doula, she lives like literally like a couple blocks away from us, just right around the corner. So we go swing by, pick her up. We play the Rocky song. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know why we did that. We did it just for fun. Anyway, so we get to the hospital. They check us in. We go up there, and they put us into a room. I'm just going to kind of cut this part short. They put us in a room, and they say, okay, we'll be back. We're going to swab you to make sure or to confirm that it was amniotic fluid. So by this point, the water had kind of stopped, so I was dry. So they come in, they swab to check to make sure, test that it is amniotic fluid. They do, and they seemed a little bit skeptical, the nurse that was checking me, that I was in labor, because I wasn't in much pain at all. I mean, it was like period cramps, so my face isn't contorting or anything. I'm not like in serious pain. It just feels like period cramps, and they're super irregular. But my water broke, and so that's why we went. And I did not want to be sent away. That was something that I just didn't want. I had a lot of hopes for, like every woman, and especially I think your first baby, you have so many hopes and things that you want to happen, and a plan. And part of my plan was that I didn't want to be sent home. And so we go, and she was a little bit skeptical. I don't think she thought that I was in labor. So she swabs me, tests it, and then she says, I'm sorry, it's not amniotic fluid. It's just, it's probably just CM, cervical mucus. So she says probably just, CM, but I'm like, well, it's a runny. She says, well, let me check your cervix. So she checks my cervix. It's like fingertip, basically, like nothing, 1 or 2, or I think maybe 1. I was pretty much closed. So she says, all right, I will, because we were pretty convinced that it was amniotic fluid. It was watery, and it was earlier kind of dripping out. So, CM doesn't do that. So she says, let me come back in 45 minutes and I will check your cervix again. And if you're not dilated, then you'll go home or whatever. So she goes away, and, I'm a little bit like, well, I'm not going to dilate in 45 minutes. That's just not realistic. So we're just kind of praying that I would start, that she would test again or something would happen so that we wouldn't have to go home, because we were convinced that my water had broken. So, and Mary Beth, she was like almost 100% sure that it was. And so she kind of helped me in being confident that it was. So I'm sitting on the bed and it starts like leaking out. And so I tell her, I'm like, I tell Mary Beth, it's leaking. Like my water is leaking again. And so she said, okay, we're going to have her come in and test you again to make sure that it is amniotic fluid. So she comes in to check my cervix, and this whole time I am having contractions. They're irregular, but they are getting a little bit stronger. So she checks she comes in to check my cervix, and I tell her my water is leaking, and I'm pretty sure that it is my water because it's like leaking out like water. It's not thick. So she goes, okay, well, I'll test again. So she swabs, takes it away. She goes, okay, let me go get another opinion. So she goes off and it tests positive. So she goes back in and she says, all right, your water has broken and you are not leaving here without your baby in your arms. So in that moment, we are freaking out, super excited, but that was like reality. And that was one of Fernando's favorite moments, I think, was the moment that she said, you're not leaving here without your baby. That was crazy. So we ended up leaving the house by around 3:30, so the hospital's like 5 minutes away. So by this time it's like 4:30, maybe getting close to 5. I could be wrong with the times, something like that. So they say, all right, we're going to hook you up to an IV and let you labor in here for just a little bit, and then we're going to switch you to the labor and delivery room, which is really nice and spacious, really comfortable bed. They have like a tub and everything in there. So for now I'm in the regular small room. So they put an IV in my arm, just in case, whatever emergency. They put an IV in my arm and they say, all right, we're going to wait and we'll check you in, I think, like an hour. And and she had checked my cervix. I don't know if I said that. She checked it again and nothing had happened. So she was pretty convinced that it was going to be a long labor. So she said, my cervix hasn't changed in a couple hours, that they were going to give me a Cervidil, I think is the name of it. Basically, it's like this little thing that they insert, and it softens your cervix and speeds up your labor, so that you will dilate. So I didn't really know what it was. So I was like, okay, that's fine. I mean, what else am I supposed to say? My doula was kind of like, Mary Beth was a little bit, she didn't say this to me, but she told Fernando to pray that she dilates because we don't, she doesn't want any interventions, and this, it's not ideal that she has this. So they switch me over to the other room, and I had started to get some more intense contractions, and they were probably around 5 minutes apart, but it was hard for me to tell when they started and when they stopped. It just kind of, it was so gradual, and the pain kind of stayed, but it wasn't anything I couldn't handle. It felt like an intense period cramp. So anyway, they switched me to the room, and my contractions do start to pick up a lot more. I have no memory of them switching me, of me switching rooms. I don't know why, but I cannot remember that for the life of me. I can't remember switching rooms. But I know it happened. We switched rooms, and my contractions started to pick up, and they started to become regular, and I started to feel when they started and when they stopped, and I wasn't able to talk through them. And so something that I had really worked on the months leading up to my labor was mental strength. I just wouldn't allow myself to be negative about it. And something that I have kind of talked about, those are close to me know this. I don't like all the negativity that surrounds pregnancy, labor and delivery, and child raising. I hate all the negativity, and I know that there are a lot of hard things difficult things with being pregnant, and labor and delivery obviously is super difficult, and raising kids. But I just hated the negativity because I have always kind of struggled with fear, and the negativity that people, say just innocently would put fear in me. And I always knew that I didn't want that when I got pregnant. People to say, all these things. So that's something that I really tried to guard and protect myself from. And I have amazing women around me that help protect me too, and would reassure me and help me keep my faith high that I was gonna have a good labor and delivery, and that I was gonna enjoy raising my baby, and that everything would be fine. And just keeping positive. The people around me were super positive, and that helped me a lot. So that's something that I really protected myself from, is when someone would say something negative to me, I would just brush it off. I would take it with a grain of salt, and I wouldn't listen to it, whether it was, you're never going to sleep again, or it's going to hurt really, really bad, and you might have this done, or this might happen, or this might happen. I just tried to block it out. And I told myself, I would tell myself this like every day, you can do this. You were created to do this. You were born to do this. Literally, your body was created to create a child and to push it out. And so your body is going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. And I would speak over my body and pray over myself and command my body to do exactly what God created it to do. And so I wouldn't let my mind go to fear. When I would feel anxious, I would just repeat that, and I would say, Lord, I would just pray for strength, that that my mind wouldn't go into panic, because once we begin to panic and we begin to fear something, we close off to that, to that thing that we're afraid of. We close off and we tighten up. And I didn't want to hinder my own body by being afraid. And I knew that if my mind would go to a place of panic and I can't do this, it's over. Obviously you have to, but I believe I could have hindered my body from doing what it was supposed to do if I didn't just let it do it, and if I was terrified of it. So I wouldn't let my mind go to fear and go to that place that it wanted to go. I would just block that off, and I would say, no, you can do this. You were created to do this. It's just one day of your entire life. And so once the contractions started picking up, I kept with that mentality in that you can do this. You were created to do this. Your body is going to do exactly what it's supposed to do. And I pretty much had my eyes closed the entire day. So by this time it's early morning, 5:30, 6, something like that. Who knows? Actually, I think it might have been closer to 6:37. When the contractions are really picking up, and they're a few minutes apart. I'm sitting in a chair. I have a blanket over me. I have my eyes closed, and I'm just breathing through my contractions. I'm not making a sound. I'm just breathing through them, and every contraction, this is just the phrase that I had to say, and I said it every single one, every single contraction I said in my head, this too shall pass. And I said it over and over until the contraction was done, and I had to say it to get through the contractions. So I had my eyes closed the whole time, and Fernando was right by my side the entire time, and Mary Beth, my doula, was there the entire time getting me whatever I needed. And at this point I had started to get really nauseous. I hadn't eaten anything but a popsicle, and I was really nauseous. Every contraction was making me throw up, but I had nothing to throw up, and I was kind of already dehydrated when I went into the hospital because I hadn't drank enough water, I guess. So they started giving me water through my IV to make sure that I didn't really fully dehydrate, keep me hydrated. But I was throwing up. Even ice chips I would throw up, and so that part was pretty miserable, but I had to just keep a strong mind. So I would have a contraction and I would actually fall asleep in between. And Mary Beth said later she was afraid because I would actually fully fall asleep for like 3 minutes into a deep sleep. She was afraid that my contractions were slowing down and that I was kind of going backwards. And so she told Fernando to pray that it would speed up so I didn't have to have the cervix softener. So I'm just going with the flow. I don't know anything going on there. I'm in my own world. But they're by my side helping me with literally anything that I needed. So they're like, okay, we're going to check her to see what she's at. So they help me get back to the bed and they check me and I'm at a 4. So Mary Beth had told Fernando, pray that she's at a 3 or more, because if she's not, then they're going to give her the softener, and if she's at a 4, it'll most likely, go natural, as far as I understand. So I'm at a 4, so they were really excited about that. I think by this time it's around 9:30, and so, all day I stayed in the chair or in the bed all around, I want to say 3 or 3:30, around that, sometime in the afternoon. Mary Beth asked me if I want to move to the tub, so I'm like, sure, I'll try. At this point, I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm kind of miserable, but I'm just keeping to myself, not saying a word unless I need my back rubbed or, whatever I need. That's the only time that I'm communicating, because I just had to stay in there to keep strong. So they helped me get to the bathroom, and by this point, that was probably the worst part for me of labor, because once I got in the tub, I think that was when I was fully dilating to a 10. I mean, the pressure on my back was like unreal. Like it was pretty intense. So I'm in the tub and by this time I'm like vocal with my contractions. I'm making that low sound to get me through, and kind of, just swaying with it to help ease the pain, saying this too shall pass, this too shall pass. Just passing time, knowing that once this contraction goes, Mary Beth always says, once that contraction goes, it will never come back again. It will never come back again. Then a new one comes and it goes, and that one's never coming back again. And I remember when I was in the tub, I was picturing, I just had to picture my cervix opening and the baby coming down, and I could feel it. Like I could feel all the pressure on my back, and I knew the baby was really low, and it was really intense. So they're like, okay, let's get her out of the tub by like, I think an hour. So by this time it's like 4:30, and they're like, all right, let's see if we can check her cervix to see, what has changed, because it's been a while since they checked my cervix. So slowly I get out to move to the bed, and by this time my contractions are back to back. There's no relief from the pain. So it was just, they're like, okay, we'll get her out when her contraction stops. But it was like, I don't know, it felt like seconds later a new contraction was coming. I mean, it was back to back, so we knew it was getting really close to the end. I mean, it had to be. So I slowly get out of the tub, and they help me walk back to the bed, and I lay down on my side, and I think 1 or 2 contractions later, and I feel this like urge, like overwhelming urge to push. And so it was like I almost couldn't breathe through that contraction. And so I look at Mary Beth, and I said, I need to, and she already saw. She said, okay, she's getting pushy. So I tell the nurse, I tell her I need to push. So this was a crazy part for me, and this was that in that moment I was so thankful for Mary Beth and her coaching me, because I wouldn't have known what to do and how to transition from breathing into pushing, it just felt foreign after hours and hours of to going to and pushing was weird. I have the urge to push. So I tell Mary Beth, and she sees me, "You're feeling pushy, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yes, I need to push." She says, "Okay," and I'm literally laying on my side. So I'm on my left side, and she says, she helps me like position, so she helps me pull my knee up on my side. I didn't know you could push on your side. Well, I had seen some women, but I didn't know that was going to happen for me. So anyway, she's right there in front of me. I'm laying on my side. She puts my knee up. She says, "Okay, your next contraction, instead of breathing through it, you're going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to count to 10, and then you're going to breathe again, and," sorry, she says, "take a deep breath, and then you're going to push, like bear down and push until I'm done counting to 10. Take another deep breath, push for another 10 seconds. Take another deep breath and push for another 10 seconds. So we did that, and that was my first time, and the contraction goes away after that. And that was something that was weird to me. I was like, oh. And it actually felt like relief, like at that point when it's ready to, when it's time to push, there wasn't a fear of pushing. It was like relief. Like I absolutely had to push this baby out. Like I had to, where it was going to be more pain to keep the baby inside. And so I would push, and the only way that you know how to push is like you're pooping. And so, yes, I did poop. So she tells me to push, and so I do it 3 sets of 10, and the contraction goes away. So this was the most hard work. I think the most pain was in the tub when I was dilating to a 10, until the baby crowns, of course. But this was work. This is when I become like vocal, and I was kind of like, because it was really intense and really hard work. I couldn't be quiet. And so, I'm resting in between, asking for ice chips. By this time, I'm not nauseous anymore. My lips are super dry, and I'm like, my mouth is so dry. And so I was asking for ice chips, and I was burning up. And so Mary Beth or Fernando was rubbing my back the entire time. Literally for 12 hours. Or, yeah, probably 12 hours he's rubbing my back, because it was hurting. He was a champ. And so they're like putting, cold rags on my head, because that's what I wanted. And like, fanning me with like cold rags. And so in between, I'm like resting, eating ice chips, and then the contraction comes up, and I'm pushing. So they, I don't know how long. It was probably 30 minutes of pushing, maybe. It didn't feel like that. It felt shorter, but the baby's head you started to see the hair. So that's when they call in the doctor. So the doctor comes at like the very last second to catch the baby, pretty much. But the doctor comes in, and the room starts filling up with like interns. So because I was like a special case, and I only had a 2-vessel umbilical cord, they bring in like interns to train. So they turn on the big spotlights, and I'm like bearing all to all of these strangers, which at this point I really could care less, because I'm in labor. So there were no lie, probably 10 like people in that room, like interns, nurses, the doctor, my doula, my husband, me. There were over 10 people in there. So there's like an audience with the spotlights on me, and they're just watching. So the doctor's getting ready. I'm like, oh crap, this is like getting real. So after I, kept pushing on my side, the doctor comes in. He's all ready. So he says, okay, I need her on her back now, after he'd kind of watched for a while to see where the baby was at. So he says, okay, I need you to flip on your back. They're pulling out stirrups and everything. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is getting real. So slowly I moved to my back, which hurt so bad. I did not want to be on my back. But anyway, I finally get on my back, and they dropped the bottom of the bed out. So basically, there's nothing under your butt. Your legs are in the stirrups, and he's there. They've like laid out a tarp or whatever it is and stuff to catch everything. And so he comes in. He like kind of takes over. All right, you know, they kind of just waited for me to have contractions, and so I would tell them when I was ready. So I would say, you know, I would rest in between, just breathing, and then I would say, okay, I need to push. So then I would take a deep breath and start pushing. And then this is where it got really intense, when the baby's head crowned, you know, and it was really exciting, you know, Fernando's like, oh my gosh, there's his head, you know, he's like, I can see his hair, and all the nurses, you know, the doctor is saying, okay, you know, they were very vocal about what was going on. I didn't have a mirror or anything, but they were telling me, so I'm like hearing this, and it was really exciting to, you know, I knew that I was like getting really close to the end, and they start like unbuttoning my gown so that the baby could do like skin to skin. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is getting real. Like, I'm about to have this baby. Like, this is about to be over. I was very excited in the middle of all of my pain. So the baby's head starts to crown. I can feel it. The pressure is, it's a lot of pressure, and a lot of pain. And the doctor tells me, you need to relax and drop your knees. I'm thinking, seriously, how do I relax? But I told myself, you know, this is gonna pass. You have to let your body do the work and relax, because then, you know, it'll be able to open more for the baby to come out. And so literally every part of my being was trying to make me relax, but I was like, that moment I felt like I'm about to lose my mind, because I cannot relax, and this baby's head is right there, and I have to hurry up and get him out, but they're making me wait. And I guess they want you to like stretch naturally, and so, which is why they make you wait. And this is where Mary Beth she grabbed my face, and I remember it helped me so much. Like, it just gave me like so much focus. She grabbed my face and like turned it towards her, and she said, look at me. She said, don't push, because I didn't want you to like shove the baby out, because I guess that would really like rip you down there. You would tear. So she said, just slow pushes. And so she literally did it with me. It was amazing. She has my face, and she says, look at me. Like small pushes. So I start doing it with her and calm down, and I try to relax and, you know, drop my knees and like let the baby just kind of come out, because the biggest part of his head is already there. You can see his head and everything. So she says small pushes, and she starts doing it with me, and I start doing small pushes, and I feel his head come out, and then the rest of the body, or I guess his head was already out, which is when they made me stop. That would make more sense. I don't know. I couldn't see, so I didn't know exactly what was going on. So at this point, they want the body to just kind of slowly push the body out, not by like shoving it out. So that's when they tell me do small pushes. So that's when she grabs my face and says, you know, small pushes, and starts doing it with me, you know, pushing it. And so I start doing that, and pretty soon the baby like just slips out. And best moment of my life, the gush of water and relief that followed the baby was like, I can't even explain it. Immediately, that was the craziest thing. Immediately, the pain went away. Like, I went from like a 10, like this is the max that I can handle, to 0, like instantly, in a second. It went to nothing, and it was like a huge gush of water, and of course little Zeal crying and screaming, and that was like, I can't even explain the relief that it's all over. And then, you know, they're like making sure they're getting stuff out of his mouth and nose, and then they immediately put the baby on me in a blanket, and and he's laying right there crying, but I'm just like staring at him, and that was the craziest moment of my life. And then the placenta just kind of fell out. And you know, all the other stuff is gross, TMI, I guess. But I did have to get a few stitches, but it wasn't bad. And after that, it was just baby bliss, and I've kind of found myself like missing those first few days at the hospital, because it was just such sweet time with our family. And recovery it hasn't been bad. Definitely, I will say, okay, I don't want another kid for a while because it's too fresh in my memory right now. It's been a little over 5 weeks. But I'm so thankful to have been blessed with a good birth. I know a lot of people, women that, you know, were traumatized, or I've just heard a lot of stories, or, you know, their birth plan didn't happen, you know, they had to have a C-section or whatever, and I don't take for granted the blessing it is that my body that I can get pregnant, and that I can carry a baby, and that I can push a baby out, that I can labor naturally, that my body is able to do that, because I know that not everyone gets that. And so I'm really thankful, and thankful to have had a really good experience and have a baby. And it's unreal that I'm a mom now. And so anyway, I just wanted to share my birth story with you. I feel like there's more that I could say, and I'm not going to make any promises for any videos or like schedule them, but I would like to make more videos. I would like to pick up vlogging again, especially with the baby. And you know, it's crazy because, you know, the babies grow so fast, and Zeal has already changed so much since the day we brought him home from the hospital. He has changed, and he's grown so much. He's over 9.5 pounds now, and he was born at 6 pounds and 15 ounces, and so he's gained a lot of weight, and he's looking so different. So anyway, I'm just thankful and excited and happy to share my journey with you guys. And so hopefully I can find the energy and drive to make more videos, especially with Zeal, so I can, you know, have it on video of him growing up and all the milestones that he's making. And I'm thankful for my husband and my doula and all the people that I've been surrounded with. I'm really blessed. And so anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my story. And if you're not subscribed, you can subscribe to my channel, where you'll get random irregular videos every once in a while. And like my video, comment. You can tell me your story, or, you know, or comments about whatever. I don't care. We can talk on YouTube. So I will see you guys later. Bye.